Hi, thank you for joining us for AMS Talks. I'm your special guest host, Nadia Aboud, and I'm joined today by Rick Bacon, CEO of Aquametrology Systems. Rick is joining me today so we can discuss the December 2022 regulation on hexavalent chromium that was issued in the state of California. This new regulation unequivocally identifies AMS's in-situ stannous generation technology as the best available treatment system that's a cost-effective solution to provide safe drinking water to the millions of consumers across the state of California, many of whom live in underserved communities. Rick, I'm curious, and I'm sure some of our listeners are as well, what explains your success versus the other established technologies to date for hexavalent chromium treatment?
So this journey began about 5 years ago when a number of technology providers and engineers were evaluating those traditional treatment technologies for solving for this very difficult contaminant. And we were employed to basically monitor how well those systems were performing. And it became very clear to us that something better was needed, more cost effective, with less toxic byproducts and. So we went back to base and said, if you needed to treat for hexavalent chrome, what would be the best way of doing it? Try not to shoehorn in something that doesn't work properly, develop something from basic principles that does the job. And 5 years later, we have that solution.
That's fantastic. And Rick, you spoke to the fact of hexavalent chromium is such a difficult contaminant to treat, to remove, and that there are, and I would assume, challenges, right? For each site, it's unique. So your success obviously did not happen overnight. You just mentioned that it's been 5 years of development and research. So with that extensive lab and field demonstrations and that took place, can you share some of the insights into the confidences that utilities are going to obtain by implementing your solution for hexavalent treatment removal?
It's a good question. I think the fact that we have carried out so many evaluations of particularly difficult sites here in California and demonstrated, therefore, that we can work effectively on these sites means that if we can do it there, we can do it just about anywhere else. The other thing is that it's not just our word. This technology has been thoroughly evaluated by independent engineers, produced very detailed report, probably the most detailed report you get on a technology like this in recent years. And then once these technologies have been implemented, you need to know they're going to continue to work. And one of the unique features of our technology is that we incorporate real-time monitoring of system performance, so that as soon as anything changes, the system itself identifies that and is able to modify its way it's working and remain effective. And lastly, money counts for a lot, and this system is considerably cheaper than the alternatives. When you look at the lifetime costs, these are plants that are going to operate for 20 years. The state confirmed in the report you mentioned at the beginning that this system will be substantially cheaper than those traditional technologies. So a technology that works and is going to save people a lot of money, I think, is a good reasons for having confidence in it.
Oh gosh, absolutely. But I guess what strikes me is that when we look at research by some industry experts such as Paul Canahan, they're indicating that what takes on average 6 to 8 years to have full adoption, to establish an innovation in our field, and with early adopters and over 15 years possibly to have majority adoption. So what you're speaking to and the achievements that you've made just in 5 years with your extensive product development and research, how is it that you reached this position of early adoption? And you're actually what seems like on your way to early majority adoption.
So Paul's research is really insightful, but it's based on averages. And anyone who knows aquametrology systems knows that we don't do averages. That's not us. Part of the reason for why it takes so long is many innovative companies go out and try and raise public funding in order to progress. That takes time. That eats up a lot of time. Our shareholders effectively said, don't waste time doing that. We'll invest. We'll take 100% of the risk. We believe in this technology. We will back it, which meant that we could go out and do pilots, fund evaluations without having to hang around for public funding. I think the other difference is that we, even though we've been around nearly 12 years, we still have the attitude of being a startup. So innovation is very much in our blood, but we don't do it corporate style. Corporates do innovation by committee, which is the death of progress. And a lot of the technologies that Paul evaluated came out of the stables of large corporates as opposed to startups like ourselves. And if you work 80 hours a week instead of 40 hours a week, that halves the time to results anyway. And furthermore, we've adopted lots of principles of lean development, lean piloting, which means we can get on with things much, much faster than following the traditional ways of evaluating new products in the market. So it's a whole bunch of different things. And finally, it's people just very committed to getting on with it. And we've established high trust with a lot of those sites we went to. People don't just open their door and say, oh, come in and try a new product. They do it because they trust you, and that takes time to build up. And we've done that with all the places that we've been working. So many facets to it all, but very pleased with the outcome.
Oh, absolutely. And it sounds as if, this multidisciplinary team that you've set up there with AMS has really enabled you to sort of show the efficacy, not just of the treatment system, but of the innovative process of how you have chosen to, lab study, pilot, full-scale demonstration, the technical, operational, and performance advantages of the Safeguard H2O technology, which I guess just leaves me with one final question for our listeners. Utilities are going to start, especially with this new ruling being out, they're going to start to evaluate treatment systems. There's a compliance schedule that based on the size of the utilities, they're going to be asked to meet. But what else should they be thinking about outside of capital and operating costs when it comes to a treatment solution? Can you provide any insight on that?
Well, it's interesting. We're having this conversation here in California, which has sort of a reputation for being very environmentally sensitive. And I think one of the critical advantages, key advantages of our technology is that it's very environmentally friendly, has a very small carbon footprint. Why is that compared to the traditional technologies again? And why is that? Because it can be powered with renewable energy resources. There are no toxic waste streams. In fact, we can reuse some of the byproducts of this treatment for other applications. So we've got renewable energies, no toxic waste streams, and a very small carbon footprint. And increasingly, utilities are going to be looking at that as the way forward when they're making choices about treatment systems.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time today, Rick. I'm sure our listeners found this very valuable, this insight into the technological advantages that AMS is offering, and also sort of the broader environmental advantages of using your proprietary solution for hexavalent chromium treatment. So again, thank you so much for your time today, Rick.
Welcome, and thank you for a great conversation.
Thanks. Take care.